Welcome to the year 1945. This is Tony Liang, and I approve this message. The Freeman Field Mutiny was a series of incidents at a U.S. Air Force base in Indiana. On April 1945, a group of African Americans had attempted to integrate into an all-white officers' club and ended up being arrested. The Freeman Field was deactivated shortly after the Freeman Field Mutiny. John H. Johnson was one of the most successful African Americans in the time period. He had started his own publishing company, and he published the Ebony magazine, which debuted in August 1945. During World War II, many African Americans fought alongside white Americans in the battle against the Axis power. Because the American Army was already partially integrated with African Americans, Robert P. Patterson, Secretary of War, appointed the Gillum Board to further integrate the American Army. Jackie Robinson was a very successful African-American baseball player during this time. On October 23, 1945, Jackie Robinson signed on to the Montreal Royals. The Royals were a part of the Brooklyn Dodgers organization. This was the first African-American step into an all-white sport. Jackie Robinson went on to become a baseball superstar. He faced overwhelming amounts of racism and became extremely successful in baseball.
In July 1946, two African Americans and their wives were lynched in Monroe, Georgia by a white mob. Their bodies were said to have found 60 bullets. In December 1946, President Harry S. Truman appoints the President's Committee on Civil Rights.
On the afternoon of April 15, 1947, Jackie Robinson emerged as an inspiring figure in the civil rights movement when he became the first black man to play Major League Baseball in the 20th century, making his debut with the Brooklyn Dodgers against the Boston Braves at Ebbets Field.
In 1948, Ada Lois Sipel applied to the University of Oklahoma's law school. This was the only taxpayer-funded school in the state. However, she was denied admission because she was black. This opened up the Sipel versus Board of Regents of University of Oklahoma case, which debated the 14th Amendment. The courts ruled that blacks and whites must have equal education, and therefore she must have admission to the school. This integrated the University of Oklahoma. In 1948, Hubert Humphrey was the mayor of Minneapolis. The Democratic Party of 1948 was split between the liberals, who thought that the federal government should assertively guarantee civil rights for non-whites, and Southern conservatives, who opposed this. Hubert Humphrey was a strong supporter. At the convention, he gave the bold speech stating that blacks and whites should have equal rights. He also stated that the issue had been brought up 172 years too late. Later that year, he became the Senator of Minnesota. In 1848, the U.S. President was Harry S. Truman signed the historic Executive Order 9981. This order integrated the U.S. Armed Forces, and now the black soldiers could serve alongside white soldiers in war. Now, after the signing of the Executive Order 9981, there were now many black soldiers. Also, in 1848, many people, both black and white, gathered outside the White House to protest the segregating Jim Crow law. Finally, towards the end of the year, Atlanta became the first city in the U.S. to hire black police officers.
Herman Marion Sweatt, an African-American, wanted to attend the University of Texas Law School at Austin. However, he was refused admission because the Texas state constitution did not allow integration in education. Sweatt decided to sue the university's president, T.S. Painter. Thurgood Marshall defended Sweatt in this case, and eventually he went on to be a U.S. Supreme Court justice. When tried in the Travis County Courthouse, the case was ruled in the favor of Painter. This case was brought to the U.S. Supreme Court in 1950, and it ordered that Mr. Sweatt was admitted into another case involving education was with George McLaurin, who already had a master's degree in education, but he wanted to earn a Doctor of Education degree. However, upon applying to the University of Oklahoma, he was denied admissions because McLaurin won after suing in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Oklahoma. But because at the time, state law prohibited schools from having black and white students to learn together, he was segregated from the others. He petitioned the U.S. District Court to make the University of Oklahoma remove the restrictions, but he was denied. McLaurin brought his case to the Supreme Court, which reversed the decision made in the U.S. District.